and the community for coming out today. Here to the beautiful Wheelhouse, a dispensary right here in our town of Port Hueneme. Today we're going to be doing a Cannabis Curious Talk. And we've brought in a panel of experts that are going to make the stigma of cannabis, just make it very clear that it's actually a very positive thing for our community. And we brought in some panel members, as we said. So the first speaker, I would like everyone to give a round of applause for the SUNDERSTORM founder and CEO, Clarke.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming, everybody. So what I want to talk about today is what does the cannabis look like from a brand and manufacturing company. SUNDERSTORM has been around for about 4 years. We used to do extraction. Now we just buy distillate ourselves and then manufacture it and post-process it into final products. We make about 100 different SKUs of a variety of products, and I'll talk a little bit about them. But the starting point is that we're going to talk today about everything other than flower. So the starting point is really to talk about where does the oil come from, right? So the oil comes from the plant. The plant grows flowers, and the flowers have trichomes in it. Those trichomes have oil in them, right? And that oil can be extracted. So there's different methodologies to actually extract the crude oil from the plant, just like you do in tinctures and other types of old school methodologies for aromatherapy and other types of products that we all come to know. But the oil is extracted using these different types of solvents, whether it's CO2 or butane or ethanol, and there's a variety of technology that does it. I don't know if you guys can see this very well, but probably not. But in general, the oil is extracted, and then it goes through what's called a dewaxing process. And the dewaxing is when the oil comes out of the initial extract, it's very, very thick and very gooey and very heavy, just like petroleum when it comes out of the ground, and it has to be post-processed, right? So it's post-processed, they remove the wax in a process called dewaxing, and then it goes through another process called decarboxylation. Decarboxylation is what converts the THCA, which is the acid form of THC, which is the non-psychoactive version, into THC, which is the psychoactive version. And that's basically, we do that by just heating it for a couple hours at a very high temperature, and that converts it from the acid form. Once in that format, once it's dewaxed, you can use it into a full spectrum oil, which some companies actually use for some of their products. There's a lot of it tends to be darker and has a lot of the chlorophylls and flavonoids and other compounds in it that make it give it that darker color. Within the last couple of years, companies have been focusing a lot on distillation, and the distillation process is essentially a purification process, purifying out the cannabinoids out of the oil and removing or filtering them from the flavonoids and the chlorophylls and the heavier molecules that are inside the oil. So those compounds are what remain in. I mean, it's basically just like your old-fashioned whiskey still. You basically boil off the compounds that are important. They boil off at about 220 degrees Celsius, and the cannabinoids boil off, and then they're cooled, and then they drop into another chamber where they come out and they're much clearer and much higher potency. So whereas the crude, when it comes out of the plant itself, is generally somewhere between, let's call it 5, depends on what parts of the plant you use, 5% THC to about 30% in heavy and higher potency flowers. When it comes out of the crude, you get it, generally 10 to 18% THC is what you actually end up in the crude process. After it's dewaxed and distilled, you'll end up with something that's more along, 85 to potentially 95% cannabinoids. So it's a much purer form of the product. And with that, then you can insert that into a variety of different types of products. So, for example, the general categories that you'll find in the shop are vapes. A lot of people see the vapes. Vapes are made by taking that oil, and adding flavorful terpenes, either natural or synthetic, depending on the company that makes them, to add a little bit of flavor to the vapes. Distillate itself doesn't have much of a flavor, so most companies will add something back to give it more of a flavor. But as you add more terpenes and other things back into it, you drop the potency, and that's important for everybody to understand. Another thing I want to talk about as part of all this is the bioavailability. How much of these products actually end up in the bloodstream? Because if it doesn't end up in the bloodstream, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter that it's going into your system, because it has to end up in the bloodstream to be distributed throughout your body, so the cannabinoids can do the work that they need to do. Whether it's to relax you through the psychoactive effect, or whether it's to actually do some healing through your endocannabinoid system on various receptors in your body. Your endocannabinoid system is not just in your brain; it's throughout your entire body, and that's why cannabis is so powerful. We didn't even know this system existed until about 20, 25 years ago. That's amazing, right? People have been consuming cannabis for thousands of years, and yet we had no idea why it was helping and healing. But now science is finally starting to be done. We're finally starting to get a sense of that. So vapes, the bioavailability, how much gets into the bloodstream of a vape is generally around 50%. Also flowers, something similar to that. We all know that when you exhale, you see a lot of the smoke going out. You're exhaling a lot of the cannabinoids. So you only get about 50% of THC, CBD, or the cannabinoids in your bloodstream when you inhale a vape. Another format is edibles that we've all seen. So we happen to make gummies, and other companies make chocolates and mints and other types of things. Those get processed by the GI tract and then by the liver. And oftentimes the THC gets converted to something called 11-hydroxy-THC, which is a different form of THC, which tends to give it that sort of heavier feeling. It also there is some science that points to the fact that it might actually add a little bit of the paranoia effect. So an edible experience is quite different from a vaping or flower smoking experience. They also take a lot longer. So edibles, get processed in the gut. That might take anywhere from 30 minutes up to an hour and a half, depending on the consumer. The bioavailability of edibles, a lot of people think that the bioavailability of edibles is actually greater than smoking, but the truth is it's a lot less. Your body processes it and flushes most of it out. So if you're really healthy, you'll get maybe 25% of the cannabinoids in the bloodstream of an edible. If you're sick, if you have cancer, if you have some serious gastrointestinal disease, Crohn's disease or whatever, you might only get 5% of those cannabinoids from the edible in your bloodstream. And a lot of people don't understand that. It's really important that if depending on the condition, you need to make sure that you're consuming the cannabis in a way that will maximize its ability to get into your bloodstream. Concentrates are obviously another category. Waxes and dabs and things like that. They're processed an additional step within a vacuum oven where some of the moisture is removed and makes them a little bit thicker and more waxy. Just like other inhalables, you get about 50% of the bioavailability of the concentrates. Beverages are similar to edibles. That's a popular category. Beverages also can take a little bit of time to process, but maybe not quite as much as an edible. Tinctures and oral sprays, those are rapidly becoming a very popular format. Some of that does go in sublingually, so you'll get a little bit more into the system. They tend to be 20 to 30% bioavailability. So tinctures can be a good way to actually ingest the cannabinoids. And then of course we have pills and patches are another format, and the patches will go into the bloodstream. Pills do get processed in the gut. So let me talk a little bit about SUNDERSTORM and what we do and how we do things, because we're a science-based company. We use science actually to be able to deliver more effective products. We tend to be one of the more innovative companies out there, and I'll talk about as to why that is. Just a little bit about the company itself. We stand on three fundamental pillars. One is the quality of our products. We work really hard to have very high quality products that are very consistent, that are very reliable, and they're, whether you take it today or 6 months from now, it's the same effect. Right? That's very important to us. Quality of life, we want our products to improve your life and well-being, and our overall interest in the company is to have is to drive overall wellness of our patients and consumers. And then quality of our community, we think that cannabis is a very important healing tool, and we want the community to adopt it and be able to accept it and understand the power of it. So the products that we make, our first mainstream, most important product for us are our Kana gummies. These gummies are all made in-house. We compound them very, very carefully. So the compounding process is very similar to cooking at home. You add very specific quantities of all the elements, and then you blend them together and you cook them in various stages. Our process is very, very rigorous. We weigh everything carefully. Everything is mixed at the appropriate time. We actually measure through a refractometer. We measure the amount of water in the gummy all along the process, so we know exactly when to pull it out of the cooker and inject it into the molds for hardening, because we want a very, very consistent product. So the compounding process, the cooking process are very important. And one thing also that we do that I think is very important, you should check this into the edibles products that you buy, is what's the homogeneity of these products? How consistent is that cookie on one part of the cookie versus the other part of the cookie? How consistent is that cookie from one cookie in this batch to one that you're going to buy 2 weeks from now? Very important for you to have that same very consistent experience. And so we work very hard in our compounding and measuring process to make sure that everything is made very, very consistently. And in fact, every scale in our processing plant is checked before every batch. So we actually test every scale with a known weight to make sure that and calibrate them accordingly so that everything is measured very well. And I'm very proud to say that Aaron's here from CannaSafe, and CannaSafe awarded us the most accurately formulated edible in the industry for 2018. And that was a couple months ago at the Candies Award, and we were very, very pleased to accept that. So, and I think it's a testament to how our team operates and the way that the rigor that we have in our processes. We also make vapes. We also have the same level of rigor in the way we make vapes. By the way, we only use all natural ingredients. We don't use artificial ingredients in our products. Very important to look for that. You'll see that a lot of edibles out there might use dyes and things that are synthetic. You might want to check the labels to make sure that they use natural ingredients. The state has actually wanted us to make sure that we put all that on the packaging, so you should be able to find it there. Let's see. Oh, pesticides. Let's talk about pesticides for a moment. So pesticides have been one of the dark areas of this industry for quite a long time. I think the single biggest, most exciting thing to come out of a regulated market is the fact that you can now find pesticide-free product on the shelves. That has been a huge benefit to all of us. And I'll tell you, it took me a good year to find pesticide-free raw materials when we were doing our extractions. Even though everybody was saying this is organic, it's without pesticides, in fact there was flooded with pesticides. And in fact, the black market or the gray market or the unlicensed market, whatever you want to call it, is still flooded with pesticides, and they're very toxic to the human body, and they're at levels that are often thousands of times higher than our body, than recommended by the FDA. This is a major problem, and this is a massive benefit to us all in this regulated market. The labs like CannaSafe are testing all these things, and that we're forced to make sure that we produce products that are healthy for our patients and consumers. At SUNDERSTORM, we have what's called the zero pesticide policy. Even though there's a minimum threshold, just like on your organic foods, there's a minimum threshold of pesticides that are allowed in any of your products. We have a zero pesticide policy. We don't allow pesticides of any level, not 1 part per billion of anything in any of our products. It's very important for us. And we reject more oil when we buy it than we actually buy. We're very, very particular about what we put in our products, because we don't want to put anything in your body that we wouldn't put in our own. And in fact, our team is very particular about the products. So let's just talk a little bit about nanotech, and then I'll wrap it up. So we've heard a lot about nanotechnology in this industry. Nanotechnology simply means that the particles that are being ingested by your body are on a nanoscale. Nanoscale means that they basically are at the very, very smallest scale that can be absorbed by your body, right, at the molecular level. So, for example, in our sublinguals, we make these oral sprays, and the particle size is very similar to the particle size of the enzymes actually in your stomach. So when they float by, the enzymes don't even process it, right? They go directly into the bloodstream. So that means you get higher bioavailability. Nanotech is massive for this industry as well, because nanotech gets more of the product into your bloodstream. The problem is there's been a lot of nanotech that's not really nano. There's been a lot of talk about these products that they're nano, but they aren't. And so we're working through that as well in the industry, and I think SUNDERSTORM is leading the charge of actually being able to deliver products that are truly nano and very high bioavailability. So in fact, we were the first company recently to launch a nano edible in California. We have our Kana Nano Gummies, and as proof, we hear time and time again that when people take them, they feel the experience in half the time. That's a game changer, right? If instead of waiting 45 minutes to feel the experience, if you have a back pain, you want it fast, right? You don't want to wait 45 minutes. People are feeling it in 15 to 20 minutes. That's tremendous, right? And I think that compression of the time of when we feel the effects is going to be a big part of the innovation in this industry over the next 5 years. And we're very happy to be one of the companies leading the charge on that. Because no one likes to wait. We all want to have our experiences sooner. And the problem with edibles in general is that edibles, you may take a brownie or a cookie and you might take 45 minutes, and maybe after like 25 minutes you eat a little more, and all of a sudden next thing you know you've taken too much. So the faster you get that experience, the more likely you're going to be able to maintain the dose that's right for you. So that's important for us. And then lastly, I'll talk a little bit about our Nano 5 sublinguals. These are oral sprays. We were the first company in the industry to introduce nanotech into cannabis 3.5 years ago. These products go under the tongue, and they have a nanomolecular technology called the liposome, which is a little nanoscale ball of fat. It hits in 5 to 10 minutes, and it has 80 to 90% bioavailability. This product is the highest bioavailability, as far as we have seen. This product is the highest bioavailability product in the industry. And we know this because we've actually put people in a hospital and taken their blood every 15 minutes to see how much of the cannabinoids actually end up in the bloodstream. This technology is a game changer. So people are feeling within 5 to 10 minutes, and I have all kinds of stories about folks that are healing all kinds of conditions, including a woman with Alzheimer's who just had her 85th birthday. And I don't know if you can see if I got her. We just had her 85th birthday. Here she is. I don't know if you can see this very well, but you can come up. This is her picture on the left-hand side 4 years ago. This is her today, and this is at her 85th birthday last December. So, it's been a life changer for her. So nanotech is, I think, going to be one of the most exciting parts of this industry and development of product development for the future. I think that's it. Thank you very much.